Thank you. Before I go ahead, can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you also for that lovely introduction. I must say, I was intrigued. um, Good afternoon, facilitators, Madam Chair, executives, other members of the accounting seminar for the year 2021, 2022. As mentioned earlier, I'm Davion Brown, and I'll just be some, sharing and speaking on some points um, in regards to personal effectiveness, time management, and creating a personal development plan. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Can anyone see the presentation before I go ahead?
Yes, we can, Mr. Brown.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So moving on. So this evening, our major objectives for the evening will be to garner a better understanding of personal effectiveness on a whole, be able to identify the general criteria for personal development planning, understand what is meant by effective time management and skills needed to achieve it, and be able to identify how one can improve in managing your own time. I must apologize for any noise or any background noise that may come up. I have a dog here and sometimes she gets very active. All right, so moving on. I'm going to start by sharing this quote. In failing to plan, you're planning to fail. The reason why I started with this quote is the essence of planning is the backbone of effectively managing your time and planning and also creating your own personal development plan. Throughout the presentation, you'll see that some of the key areas of planning, like developing assumptions or premise, choosing an action plan, implementing a strategic plan, setting various goals, etc., may come up in regards to how one can effectively manage their time and improve on personal development planning. To achieve success, so the root of personal development planning is to achieve success and happiness in your education, career, and personal life. You should continuously improve your knowledge, skills, and experience. So personal development it's broken down into different sections. So personal development on the personal level, you also have personal development on the business or organizational level. For example, for most organizations, when persons are moving into leadership roles or managerial positions, or at the end of major quarters or major goals that the business achieves, usually businesses go on like retreats, seminars, workshops, managerial workshops. All of these are types of personal development planning strategies that businesses use to effectively move an individual from one level to another, especially when they're moving up in managerial positions. So as I mentioned earlier, it's both on the personal, the self level, and also within the business itself. So basically, I'm going to basically differ between personal development and the planning. So personal development consists of activities that develop a person's capabilities and potential, build human capital, facilitate employability, and enhance the quality of life that the realization of dreams and the realization of dreams and aspirations, versus personal development planning, which is basically a structure a framework that one can use to become aware of the current skills that you have while identifying and developing skills you need, as mentioned earlier, especially when you're moving from one level to another within the business place. Work out what you want to achieve and how to achieve it. Focus on potential, study, career, and personal development options and goals. And finally, demonstrate your readiness for promotion or for development opportunities. So, in essence, personal development planning, it identifies the individual goals and what you want to achieve, in essence. So your strengths and weaknesses, the areas you need to improve and develop to meet your goals, what you need to do to achieve those goals, and basically anything that could hinder your process, your progress. All personal development plans are different, as mentioned earlier. How you write one is dependent on the scenario, and yeah, it's dependent on the scenario, but in essence, they all have general criterias right across the board. I'm going to move into one of those criterias shortly. So first, I would like to ask a question. Feel free to go ahead and answer or give your response. Why do you think we need a personal development plan? If anybody wants to answer or give an input on that. Nobody? Okay. I guess everybody is here to listen. So I'll continue. So why do you need a personal development plan? The aim of creating a personal development plan is to document a process of self-analysis. That's the first stage. Really looking into yourself to see what can be improved, weaknesses, strengths, etc., as I mentioned before. It should be honest because a lot of times we as individuals, in evaluating ourselves, we're sometimes shy to mention stuff that aren't too good. Necessarily, for example, I could say that, hey, I'm a very lazy person. I don't like to do work. Probably I don't like to wash dishes, or I don't like to do laundry, etc. Sometimes we might be a bit hesitant to focus on some of the not so good things that we as persons, the values or the, how do I say this? Sometimes we don't tend to focus on those because of, they are not something that you'd want to openly mention. But the thing is, focusing on those same areas or those same issues or little ticks of not so good things about us, that's how we really get to the root of improving ourselves on a whole and becoming a better version of ourselves. So it's all about being honest. If you're not honest with yourself, if you're not honest about what you do, the not so good stuff, as I mentioned, it makes no sense saying you're going to try creating a personal development plan, or you want to go through personal development or whatever, because some people might think that when you mention personal development, it's just a word to some people. Some people might, go and watch some motivational videos. Some persons might get up today and say, hey, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop drinking soda. Just an example, today. They don't drink soda today, they don't drink it tomorrow, but the next day they eventually go back to the bad ways. So it's not necessarily a process. They don't take a lot of things lightly. I'm not sure if that was a question. I can't see it. Let me check that out. Just to constantly review. All right, yes, thank you very much. Constantly review your goals. Go back to this. So Personal development planning provides you with clear goals. It helps you to identify your strengths and weaknesses. It improves your employability, improves your performance, it increases your motivation, helps you to track your progress, enhances your mental well-being, and also reduces stress in the long run. That is effective personal development planning, because as mentioned, you could be planning and it's not as effective as you'd want it to be. Continuing. So creating a personal development plan. The essence of creating a personal development plan can fall within 3 stages: personal analysis, setting goals, and personal objectives. So personal analysis, this is the first stage designed to analyze your strengths and weaknesses. You'll be able to draw heavily upon your career and outcomes of courses that you may have attended. So it's really a self-evaluation. Setting your goals, this is the second stage. This involves setting new and clearly definable goals that are measurable, keyword measurable. And stage 3, personal objectives. This stage involves setting out your personal objectives. These can also be set in context within your current role, whether it is within an organization, whether it is as a student leader, etc. Those objectives would be set right around the role that you currently have, what exactly you're trying to achieve at the end of the process. In creating a personal development plan, the first stages would usually include a SWOT analysis, which would be a part of the self-assessment. In this way, by doing that, you would identify what could hinder you or help you in achieving those same goals that you would have highlighted earlier. You would be evaluating your existing skills, knowledge, and interest. You'd be identifying transferable skills that could help you in achieving your goals, and use those results from the SWOT analysis, the personal evaluation or assessment, use those results in actually setting and achieving the goals that you have. So moving on to SWOT analysis, the first stage of a general personal development plan, which can be found at the personal level, organization, etc. As mentioned, in any personal development plan, the first stage or first criteria is a SWOT analysis, being that you have to, the aim is really to promote the strengths that you have, reduce the weaknesses, exploit the opportunities available to you or the organization on a whole, and minimize the threats to the success of either the person or the organization. So, strengths. So looking at your strengths, you're looking at what you're good at, you're looking at what advantages do you have over others, looking at do you have any resources available to you that others do not, what do others say about your strengths, do you have any achievements you're proud of. Excuse me. So in this area, the goal is to uncover what sets you apart from other persons. What qualities do you have that make you or the organization stand out? What makes you different? And as mentioned earlier, you would use your strengths to promote and effectively move towards the next level of personal development. Moving on to the W, which is weaknesses. You're looking at what skills do you struggle with. You're looking at what areas do you need to improve on, what holds you back as a person. Do you have any bad habits? As I mentioned earlier, do you avoid certain tasks due to lack of confidence? What do others say about your weaknesses? So in this area, you think about the things that you're not so good at. or the areas where you can improve your performance, etc. When you list your weaknesses, you can basically reduce or manage them so that they don't stop you from achieving your goals. So as I mentioned, a lot of persons might beat themselves up about certain weaknesses that they have, but the trick is to recognize them and manage them appropriately. Also, you don't want to be too self-critical. If you're fair and forgiving about other people's weaknesses, make sure you forgive yourself also, because a lot of persons, well, persons are there who low-key, they are affected by, internally they're affected by certain attitudes or certain whatever it is that they associate themselves with. So they might be hard on themselves. They might, take a while to actually look into forgiving themselves for acts or whatever it is. But the main or the first step is to actually looking into yourself, identifying whatever it is that may have been bad, ill will, whatever it is, and moving from there. So looking at also what skills do you struggle to master? What do you do only because you have to in order to satisfy? You're looking at where are you vulnerable? Where do you lack experience, resources, or connections where others have them? So the weaknesses in essence is sort of like the backbone of the personal development plan, being that the weaknesses are what you'll be planning around, because these weaknesses are the things that you'd be looking to improve on. These weaknesses are the things that you'd be looking to achieve in the long run, being that you want to improve a specific part of it personally or within the organization. If it is that you find that you do something different, you only go to work because you have to, you only do a certain task because you have to, and you want to change that. The weaknesses are what basically tells you what you need to work on in order to further improve yourself. Moving to the O, opportunity. Is the industry you're looking at in a promising position? Is there an underdeveloped niche in certain markets that you can tap into? Do you have contacts in your network who could assist you? Do you take advantage of the mistakes others are making? Is there an opening for a position not advertised externally yet? Is there a project you can assist with that will help you develop different skills? So these are examples of opportunities within the workplace that one might have. As mentioned, these are, a part of the analysis, the personal analysis that one would do to further move on to setting those specific goals that they would want to achieve. If it is that, hey, is there an industry you're looking at in a promising position? So, for example, there's an industry that low barriers to entry. You believe in yourself, you believe that you can effectively and easily maneuver what is required to be successful. Those are examples of opportunities that one would want to take advantage of. Having contacts within your network who could assist you. Jamaica on a whole is said to be a place of links. So it's not about who you know, but who knows you. So having certain people on certain levels, in certain organizations, in certain industries, etc., having certain persons in certain organizations can be fruitful to you in that it presents or creates a lot of opportunities for growth in potential areas that you'd want to probably exploit. Moving on to the T, which is the last section of the SWOT analysis. What could derail your success? Example, competition, finances, changes in technology, and other obstacles. Is there a risk of your weaknesses becoming threats? Are there any external changes beyond your control that could be a threat? So it is important to be as honest as possible when answering these questions, particularly when you're looking at strengths and weaknesses, because as mentioned, you have weaknesses or some weaknesses that could potentially become threats, that could kind of derail your whole progress in terms of personal development planning, whether it is on, as I mentioned, the personal level or the organizational level. There are weaknesses both internally and within the organization that could potentially become threats. And when that happens, when those weaknesses become threats, they tend to derail progress. They tend to basically bring it back to square one. So the aim is to clearly identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats. Being honest about all of them. As I said, the key is really being honest, because you might not want to mention, or you might not want to look at a specific area, or you might not want to, how do I say, focus on a specific thing, but that's really the goal of personal development and planning, is to focus on the weaknesses in essence and how you can improve on them in both the short and long run. Goals. So we're at the goal stage of personal development planning. In creating your goals, you want to make sure that they are SMART. I'm sure everyone here should know what that means: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Specific, meaning your goals should be specific and precise rather than generic. You should state exactly what you want to achieve or change. And an example would be someone saying, I want to be a better public speaker. Everybody wants to be a better public speaker. Not everybody wants to go on stage and have, butterflies in their bellies, all of that. But being specific about it and being specific of exactly what you want to do takes a different approach. So for example, stating that instead of saying I want to be a better public speaker, stating that you want to attend a specific public speaking seminar, course, or presentation that will help you in perfecting or help you in improving your public speaking skills because of your lack of confidence in the specific area. So stating that instead of I want to be a better public speaker, you can see where one is more specific, because you can get up any day and say, I want to be a better public speaker. I want to be good at public speaking. But what do you do in regards to becoming a better public speaker or being good at public speaking? So stating the specific thing that you want to achieve is a totally different scenario, and it actually makes you accountable in a sense, because then you would say that, oh, you haven't actually attended a seminar, you haven't actually tried a course, you haven't actually got a mentor, you haven't actually tried anything at all. So how are you going to become better? Looking at measurable. Having a quantifiable goal will make it easier to track and achieve. For example, with the same public speaker example as I gave earlier, I want to sorry, I will enroll in a specific course this month, or today's Thursday. Yes, I want to enroll in a public speaking course by the 7th of October. I will, whether you look for a course or you look for a mentor or you look for whatever it is that will, based on the goal that you set earlier. So if you stated that you want to attend a course, you're going to look for courses. If you stated that you want to find a mentor that will help you in becoming better at speaking, you know that definitely you'd have to step out of your comfort zone, start interacting, start networking, start looking at possible role models in that space that could potentially help you. So you set a specific, in order for it to be measurable, you would set it within a specific region. So give yourself, let's say you have 2 weeks, for example, to at least attempt or begin a conversation to having a mentor or having someone help you who is already experienced, help you in becoming better at the specific objective you highlighted earlier. So the goals must be achievable, they must be realistic and attainable. You should ask yourself whether you can achieve them in a certain time frame, as mentioned. For example, if you're looking to pay for a course or you're looking to pay someone to mentor you or tutor you privately, if you don't have the money, how are you going to do it? So you can't be blindly setting goals that you yourself know you cannot achieve, because if you're looking to pay, you have a specific professional that you want and that person charges for their services. How are you going to garner their services if you don't have the money to pay them? I'm sure they're not doing charities. So you have to be realistic with yourself. You have to look at where you are and look at how you will get to the place to say, okay, I can easily and comfortably pay to do this, pay this person to mentor me or tutor me, or wait or strategically think or how to plan on how you're going to get to that place in essence. Your goals must also be relevant. They should relate to your overall aims and longer term ambitions. Sorry. For example, a lack of confidence in public speaking is one of my weaknesses, and I feel it is holding me back in my career and personal life. Relevant. So on the same public speaking headline, it's very relevant because you believe that it is holding you back in your career and your personal life, which is definitely not something good. You would want that to be holding you back from getting a potential promotion, getting, into a specific department. You'll be stuck doing something that, you have the potential to do, but because of your inability to represent the company per se on a public level, they're just not going to look at you. So definitely that will be relevant to the specific role that you have, but you don't want to set a goal that isn't tying in at all with any other previous goals that you mentioned. So it has to be relevant, it has to make sense. And finally, time split the goals into short term, medium term, and the long term. Because definitely you're not going to achieve everything at once. Other persons might want to go to bed tonight, tomorrow wake up and they're in the perfect position. Fortunately, it doesn't work that way. So splitting them into short, medium, and the long-term goals you can easily measure how far, or you can easily measure the success rate, short term, medium term, and long term. So long term, you know, you want to per se be representing the company at, for example, let's say, let's say you want to represent the company at a public seminar. That could be a long-term goal, but short-term would definitely be to, let's say you get what do you call it now? Short-term could be butterflies. You go on stage, you start, vomiting I don't want to say vomiting internally, but you start freezing, you start having cold sweats, you start looking all over the place. That would definitely be something that you'd have to work on first before you consider even attempting to go for a position that, would represent the company in a whole. So looking at the emotional, the mental, the physical aspects of of public speaking first, and then moving and setting those goals along the way, short term, medium, and long term. So as soon as you achieve each, long term, definitely you would see where you developed over the period and would have improved. Carrying out the task carrying out the task you've set for yourself for each goal, and be aware of any new skills that you'd have picked up along the way. So as I mentioned, so short-term goals, you would look at let's say the course that I mentioned earlier, or the tutor. Let's say the tutor has a 2-week plan, or not 2 weeks, a month-long tutorship that they would help persons, or whatever the case may be. The aim at first is to complete that course, mentorship period, or tutorship. The aim would be to actually complete that first and then moving on. So completing the whatever the case would have been earlier, the course, let's work with course, completing the course, the actual course, would be the short-term goal for you. So that would have been a month, 3 months, 6 months, dependent on the length of the course and dependent on how, apologies, the length of the course and dependent on how dedicated you would have been. So setting the short-term goal, that would be the first goal that you'd want to achieve, which would have been completing the course. So completing the course would have made you eligible to, engage on public forums. Medium term would have been actually getting some sort of leadership role or managerial position that you would now and then be in a position to speak publicly, for the entity or company that you're in. And long term would be to acquire a specific position, let's say vice president, CEO, chair, whatever it is, that definitely your face would be all over the public. So the long-term goal would be to achieve that position where you know that, hey, you've been through the course, you've been in positions of leadership where you've spoken at on various occasions, you would have interacted, engaged with persons in public forums, etc. And that would ultimately lead you to the long-term goal. So looking back on the goals that you'd have set, you'd want to, in the planning process that is, you'd want to review. So during planning, you'd want to, in a sense, time, I wouldn't want to say time itself, but focus on specific areas that you're at. So for example, if you have a specific goal to be at a certain place within 3 months, and within 2.5 months you realize that, oh, you're falling short, definitely you'd have seen where you'd have either needed to put in more effort, put in more work, or you'd have realized that, hey, you're slacking, so you need to either change what you're doing or change the focus. So during the planning stage, and actually during executing the stages of the plan, you would look at those areas and then ultimately you would review. So look back on all that you'd have achieved and look how you would basically compare starting and ending. So how well were you at first versus how well are you now? Are you at the same stage? If you wanted to improve by 50%, are you at 25, 30, or are you at the 50? So actually looking back and looking at those specific goals that you'd have had, looking back on, the SWOT analysis, everything that you'd have done, and basically measuring those to see and comparing to see how well you performed and if there's room for improvement, or if there's room for something else that would have come up along the way, in a sense. Continuing to time management. I'll probably take the questions at the end, if any. So time management. So one would have may ask, what is time management? Time management, in a sense, I wouldn't want to say time management, but what is effective time management, being that one, as mentioned earlier, there is effective personal development planning and there is effective time management, because you could be doing both and they're just not working. You're not creating the specific goals, the SMART goals. You're not opening up about, your weaknesses or threats, etc. So what is effective time management? So what is effective time management? And I want to share, before I start time management, I would want to share with you guys something short. Hopefully it's short, yes. So last year, as mentioned earlier, I would have been serving my second year as the Director of Entertainment for the Student Union Council. I would have been serving as the Chairman and CEO for the Marketing Seminar. I would have been working as a communications intern at the United Nations Development Program, the multi-country office, and that country office is in charge of 5 countries: Jamaica, Turks and Caicos, Bermuda, Bahamas, and the Cayman Islands. I would have been serving on 2 non-profit organizations, the executive and 1 government-affiliated entity, and also I'll be doing my final year at Utech. Looking at all of those roles per se, how did I effectively manage my time? The truth is, I didn't at first. At first I thought I had, because if it wasn't for COVID, definitely I don't think I would have some of those positions. But because of COVID and more things are online, I would have gotten the opportunity to serve in various areas. So having all of that to deal with on a daily basis, plus Utech and the stress at Utech, plus assisting in also some admin departments at Utech on daily basis also. How well did I manage my time? Starting out in September, at first everything was pretty much slow, moving steady, but eventually I would have realized that, hey, I need to step up the game, because I noticed that, hey, I start forgetting things, which I usually don't, I start have to be crunching information last minute. For the UN, I definitely can't miss those deadlines because there are a lot of working parts, especially with the government. So if I miss something, it affects everything else. So I have to be back and forth. So when I realized that ultimately a lot of things are happening at once, I had to just step out of my comfort zone and I had to take a moment, take a breather, because at first everything was basically by themselves, but as we pushed more towards being virtual, a lot of things started becoming virtual. I started having meetings behind the other. Started going to my bed at 2 p.m., waking up at 4 p.m. for the next day. Plus other stuff that I did outside of school totally. So it started to get a bit hectic. And I would have had to stop completely, take a day, and I had to just look into some stuff. And that's where I started to actually plan my weeks, my months, plan certain initiatives, because being responsible for events and activities, the Students' Union, my daily internship things, nonprofit, seminar, which is an everyday 24-hour experience, test, exams, classes, etc. I had to start planning. And what I did initially was I had the opportunity to get assistance. Got like personal assistant, got I think 2 secretaries. At one point, people had to be answering my phone, and then I started having persons, creating my calendar, working around certain things because I realized that hey, you definitely can't do this alone, especially being in a position of leadership where you're responsible for others or you're working towards achieving things for other persons. So definitely being in a position of leadership put an extra strain on everything that I had to achieve. So the good thing though is I got as I said, assistants, I got secretaries, all of that, and that's how I basically made it through a year. I realized that I started to now and then forget some stuff. I forgot that I had a meeting, but when I forgot, I had someone on the backup who would send me a text, give me a call saying, hey, you have a meeting at this time, make sure you're there. Hey, you have to submit this at this time, you have this, whatever date it is. So although I was, let's say, at a meeting on Zoom at 3 p.m., I had someone who would have been able to tell me that, hey, in case you forgot, you have this at this time. I had everything scheduled, everything to the T, and that's how I had to go through my days, and that's actually how everything basically got better for me until it was basically just a breeze. Persons used to ask, Davion, how you get through this, how you do this? But at times, it really helped to schedule and actually delegate to those persons to, have some things done on my behalf, creating calendars, scheduling, all of that. That's what really helped me in basically getting through all of those rules and basically executing most of the stuff that I would have executed last year. So looking at time management and how effective it can be, as I said, this would have been a big thing for me because I would have seen where I definitely had to improve, because if I didn't, it would be a slipping, what you call it, a slipping slope. Because evidently, if I failed to do something, everything would start, it would be chaos for me. So I definitely had to plan my time effectively, and I had to make sure that deadlines, everything that I had to do was done to the T, either before or done for the specific time. So time management, really effectively managing my time, really got me through last year. and all the things that I had to do. So going back to the presentation, time management in essence is a strategy of planning, back to planning again. Effective planning basically helps you to get through a lot of stuff. Time management is one. If you don't plan effectively, you're going to crumble. So it's a strategy of planning out your available time and controlling the amount of time you spend on specific tasks in order to work more efficiently. Spending time on specific tasks, just before I continue, in effectively managing your time, there will always be, there will always be times where you have to prioritize. The big word is prioritize. Because something that doesn't need your attention right now isn't important. So I had to prioritize a lot. I had to put things back further days because looking at everything one time doesn't work. Looking at priority and getting the most important done first helps you to feel more relieved, helps you to get through the days better, and it helps you to effectively manage your time better. So effective time management in essence comes easier to some people than others, but everyone can develop habits to improve their time management skills. Without strong time management, your work and well-being can suffer, and it can lead to producing poor quality work, missing deadlines, whether organization-based deadlines, seminars, school, whatever it is, increasing your stress levels. School already stressing, seminars stressing you guys. So definitely the work that you have to get done, you don't need the extra work to put a strain on your heads. Being limited virtually, COVID, a lot of things going on. So you have to make sure that you are not adding to that stress. There's a saying, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. It's the key to work is getting more done by doing less. As long as you can do that, you're good. You're set. Because if you can get more work done by doing less, you have more time to do other stuff. You have more time to invest in other stuff, and that way you don't necessarily have a strain. You don't have a crumble. You don't have things happening all at once. At times you may forget to, well, at times I forgot to eat the entire days because I was back and back and back and back. So you always have to focus on getting more done by doing less. You don't want to be doing a lot of work, trust me. Nobody wants to do a lot of work, because doing a lot of work and then producing this amount of work on the same level is not efficient. But doing less and producing that same amount of work or even more is highly efficient. So that is the goal or the objective that you guys should focus on. So ruining your work balance, harming your professional reputation. If I had had bad time management last year, definitely, I could not even mention the United Nations or mention work that I would have done for like Ministry of Agriculture, the SDGs, etc. because I performed well and I met my key performance indicators. I was well on the way, or I can easily mention stuff that I did, or mention that, hey, I did this type of work, or I did that, etc. And vice versa. The UN can say that, hey, he worked well, is an outstanding recommendation, etc. Because I would have managed my time well. I didn't tarnish my professional reputation. Even though it's an internship, I put out the work. I had to make sure that I made an impression. Because going on an internship, whether it's paid or unpaid, you're getting the opportunity to work with, most times you're getting the opportunity to work with well-established entities within either the local sphere, international, etc. And actually leaving with an impression, or leaving with, leaving a good taste in the mouths of those who would have supervised you, who would have, been directly over you, or standing out specifically would have been the key to actually setting a good professional reputation for you. Because if you should either look for employment at an agency, sometimes you don't even have to look, you're offered full-time jobs before your internship even ends. You're offered extensions, a lot of stuff, by just building a professional reputation. So ineffectively managing your time can tarnish all of that. Just by being late, can affect your mental capacity. It can because you have a lot of things going on. So you don't, as I said earlier, you don't want to add to that. You don't want to be doing too much. But keeping everything balanced is the key while maintaining reputation, as mentioned. So why is time management? Pardon? Someone had a question? Okay. All right, I'll continue. All right, so why is time management important? I think I would have basically touched on that. So it's important because it helps you to control your work day. So you can build your business without compromising work-life balance. There are benefits to proper time management. Which would have included like improving your performance, whether personally or professionally, at work, etc. So when you learn to block time out of your day for all the important tasks, you'll have a better idea of everything you need to accomplish and how long each task should take. When you have a schedule to follow, you likely find that you spend less time deciding what to work on or procrastinating on more time getting down to important work. So time management can help you focus on just the essential task ahead of you and avoiding time-consuming distractions. Because honestly, as university students, procrastination to some comes naturally. And then, for example, assignments, tests, studying the night before the exam, doing all-nighters, doing the assignment the day before it's due or the day it's due, a lot of stuff like that. Sometimes we can't escape it, but sometimes we can. And cramming that along with all the other stuff that we have to do, especially now, it can really affect your productivity, and it can affect your it can affect your whole how do I say this now? Personal development in a whole, because not managing your time effectively can lead to chain reactions down the line, as I said. So we really have to get a grip and start to see how best we can balance everything out. So it also helps you to produce better work, as mentioned earlier. So when you're not constantly racing to meet deadlines, you can put more effort and thought into specific work that you need to get done. It helps you to prioritize tasks so that you ensure you have enough time available to complete every project. The quality of the work increases when you're not rushing to complete it because you're just doing it for doing its sake. You're just doing it to, get a pass, doing it to make sure that, hey, they can't say I didn't submit anything. But actually, when you have more time, you can put more effort into the work. You can get better quality grades. You can get better quality work out of what you produce, better quality work. So helps you to deliver work on time. Properly managing your time involves assigning tasks on your list to specific blocks of time. I said earlier, as to get persons, creating calendars for me, linked across my platforms, etc. So I would get dings, and let me see, I should have, let me see. I think I even have one. Oh, here is one right now. 106. This is one of the, I don't know if you guys can see it. 106 reminders. And this, I think this was last semester. This is probably 1 month, 106 reminders that are flagged. And that is probably just a month or probably 2 weeks. No, and that's 106 reminders. So stuff like that help me to be sure I'm on spot. I'm remembering what I need to do. The more important tasks are done first, and stuff like that. So many people use time management to allow themselves several days to complete a project. I know students who do that, but majority of us like to just get everything done closer to the date, or finish ahead of the due date to provide a buffer for any challenges that might arise. If you properly schedule the time needed to complete your work, you'll be able to hit your deadlines every time. As I said earlier, it helps to reduce stress because it's easy to become anxious when you have a full list of tasks to accomplish, both for work and your personal life. Good time management can help you to prioritize the to-do list, schedule whatever it is that you have, and helps you to create the time needed for the most important task, as mentioned. So prioritizing these tasks and giving yourself enough time to accomplish them can help reduce your stress levels. I'm going to be moving to ineffective time management very shortly. But before I move on, effective time management helps to also improve career opportunities. As I said earlier, time management can help you to become a more reliable employee who always submits high quality work by your due dates. Having more time equals higher quality work because more time is invested, meeting due dates, etc. helps you to stand out. This in turn will make you more valuable as a worker and improve your professional reputation, which can help you to find new opportunities to expand your career. It helps to boost your confidence. When you manage your time properly and successfully, helps you to meet your deadlines, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment and confidence in your abilities. So consistently finishing your daily schedule is a list. Apologies. Consistently finishing your daily schedule is a high motivator that can drive people to further improve their time management skills and take on new work opportunities. So it also helps you to be more efficient. Efficient in the sense that when you understand how to manage your time effectively, you'll be more focused at work, more allows you to accomplish more things in less time. For example, instead of trying to work on a big project, when you have 15 minutes free before a meeting, you can accomplish a few small tasks in that time and save the bigger tasks that require more brain power for when you have a large block of time free. You'll be able to work more efficiently and to achieve more with less. So as I said, the baseline for time management is really getting more done by doing less. Ineffective or poor time management, the causes and the effects. So what causes poor time management? Going back to planning. Poor planning skills would in turn affect how well you manage your time. It's important to look at the big picture of what needs to be done and the time available to complete all your work. Poor time management means that you're not able to see the big picture and plan accordingly. You should take a look at the projects you need to complete for the month, the week, and the day. Make sure you set aside enough time to complete all your tasks. So as I said earlier, that's what I had to start doing early on into the semester to make sure that I am getting enough time to sleep, and I'm meeting each of my goals or expectation or objectives um, at the right time, and I have enough time to work on each of the individual projects that I would have had. It's helpful to break them down into smaller sections to make the job more manageable, working on it over several days, few hours at a time. Failing to set priorities. I mentioned this earlier. We have to prioritize. If you don't prioritize, you're going to be either doing less important stuff at at the wrong time, because going home watching Netflix, um, watching Squid Game, or or whatever is on Netflix right now, and you know that you have a presentation 2 days ahead, and you binge watch all the first season of Squid Game, or you binge watch all the first and second season of Blood and Water, and then one day before the presentation, or the night before the presentation, you get up and say, "Hey, all right, let me see if I can find PowerPoints on this laptop." Take out a book and then you just do some all-nighter. You fall asleep in the middle of the book. You get up back again, fall asleep, get up back. You're failing to failing to set your priorities, guys. So, yeah, I mean, talking from experience, going through university, I mean, all of us would have experienced that. At times, sometimes it's really, as I said, sometimes it's really not, how do I say this? Sometimes it's needed, because sometimes you're really loaded with work and you just need a breather. You need to take your mind off of some things, but you don't need an entire season. You probably can watch 2 episodes or 1 episode, and then take your breather, get something to eat, and then tackle your work. After you finish, you go back to the series. But we tend to just take a nap. Thanks to that, you can also take a nap. But we tend to do the less important things first, and the more important things at the crunch time, when we know that, hey, we need to get this in. So once you plan out your calendar to get a better understanding, just a second. Okay. Once you plan out your calendar to get a better understanding of all the work you have to do immediately, as well as your longer term projects, it's important to prioritize all your tasks. Not having clear goals at all causes ineffective time management or poor time management. So when you have clear goals, it's easier to decide how to best spend your time. It's difficult to prioritize your task or schedule if you don't have goals. So as a seminar or as a body, if you don't have specific goals that you need to achieve within a specific time, you guys just going to be all over the place. And when it's time to actually get work done, you're going to realize, oh, boom, you're back and forth. You're stressing because you don't have clear goals and you're not prioritizing. Moving on to, what are the effects of poor time management? Some would have been mentioned earlier. So rushing to complete tasks, frequently being late, low productivity. So poor time managers, or if we can't manage our times effectively, we can't prioritize work or plan out our days. So days will be less productive than, so the days will be less productive. So basically you'll likely jump between tasks or be distracted by interruptions that aren't as important as the project you're working on. This drains your productivity and slows down the workflow, especially if you're working within groups. So nobody really likes group work because you always have that one person. Always have that one person. But if that one person had, you know, created. Sometimes you really don't know what the case is, but most of the times the person, you know, speaking from experience, you always have like one or two idlers in the groups. But as a team on a whole, if one person fails, or one person failed to achieve the goals of the group, the specific goals of the group, because you know you'd have broken them down between the group members, it would have you'd have, how I say this now, you'd have had a less productive group. So if everybody does their part, you have clear goals, you prioritize, you have your smart objectives, smart goals, etc., and everybody produces, you know, quality work, then the group on a whole will benefit. But even if one person out of the group fails to produce that work, the group will also suffer, because you win as a team and you fail as a team. So if one person fails to produce whatever, either you guys are going to go without what they failed to produce, or you're going to have to cram. And in cramming, you produce less quality work. You just put information for information's sake, or you do whatever for whatever's sake, and that means less quality work coming from the group. So you'd have had a less productive group than the potential you'd have had earlier. So taking on too much also people with poor time management skills tend to overextend themselves, accepting projects that they don't have the time to complete properly, which in turn leaves them overwhelmed. That's because they don't have a proper sense of time they have available, or how much time they need to allocate to the task they already have on the go. So even though I had a lot of tasks to complete, or a lot of bodies working within, it was still within the scope of what I could achieve, and I did achieve. So you want to either make sure that if you're taking on work or projects or whatever it is, it's in the scope of what you can get done or achieve. At times, people will take on work that they're not so sure about, but they challenge themselves. And over time, they get better because they challenge themselves and they get it done. But on a whole, the smarter thing to do is to know when you're overextending yourselves, know when to say no, know when to, work within a specific scope. Missing deadlines is an effect of poor time management, as I mentioned earlier. Harms the professional reputation. Oftentimes, when you have poor time management, you're oftentimes unreliable. That can seriously harm your professional reputation. If an employer or a client can't count on you to deliver work at a specific time, whether it is in the business space, the school space, or whether it's even in the seminar space that you guys are at right now, if there's a person, or if you as a person cannot, provide work at a specific time, you become unreliable. So you won't be considered, you won't be on top of people's minds when certain things are being done. You won't be on top of the manager's mind when promotions are coming up. You won't be on top of, the lecturer's minds when they need to award certain grades. So being unreliable is a negative effect of poor time management, and it can affect you in the long run. Yeah, so they wouldn't be able to count on you to deliver work on time, produce work that's high quality, show up on time for meetings and appointments. Your reputation on a whole will suffer, and you may find it difficult to get new work. So whether in any sphere that you are in, personally, professionally, etc., you don't want to be unreliable, because becoming unreliable, you're becoming dead weight, and nobody wants that. So you won't be considered for anything. I've had persons in groups, committees, in projects, etc., that would have, became unreliable. But at the end of the day, um, there's a certain, what you call it now, there's a certain, this is going to a total different conversation, but there's a certain, as a leader of the specific group or organization, you also have a responsibility to those persons, for the leaders or subcommittee leaders here. So although a person might, start to become dead weight, you have a responsibility to the group and to the entire organization to make sure that those persons don't become unreliable, because having unreliable people or assets, no, it wouldn't be assets, unreliable liabilities within your team or your group affects the group on a whole. Here comes dissatisfaction, stress, negative feelings associated with poor time management, poor work-life balance, and yeah, finally, poor work-life balance would be another effect of poor time management, being that you wouldn't be able to manage work and personal life. You wouldn't be able to prioritize properly. I believe I would have mentioned effectively managing your time. So planning, decision making and prioritization, setting boundaries and saying no, meaning not taking on more than you can get done, not overextending yourself, delegating and outsourcing tasks, building a system and diligently following it. And I'm going to just touch on delegating and outsourcing tasks. This is very important as leaders, group leaders, team leaders, executives. Delegating and outsourcing is very important, because as a leader, you might sometimes feel like, hey, it's better you get this done yourself. You'll definitely feel that way when persons start underperforming, but you can't do everything yourself. And as a leader, as an effective leader, you shouldn't. That's why you have a team. Delegating a task, delegating projects, whatever it is, splitting it up between the teams will help the group to become more efficient, will help the team to become more efficient. Hugging up everything within certain members, or hugging up everything on yourself is not going to cut it, because you're going to feel stressed. Your stress is going to push on to the other executives, their stress is going to push on to the other members, and that in turn is going to create a negative atmosphere, because you feel like you're doing everything, you feel like others not doing anything at all, you feel like, hey, you just can't bother. So effectively delegating is very important, and that's really what helped me throughout my second to last and last year at Utech, getting persons to take parts of projects or things that I needed to get done. So it cuts the time, cuts the work needed, cuts the amount of work, and you provide or you present or produce better quality work at the end of the day. Yes. Oh, that was the end. So I am at the end of the presentation, but I want to just run through two things: effective personal development planning and effective time management planning. You can be planning and you think it's working. Well, you can be planning and it's not effective. You can be setting out your goals, etc. They're not specific. They are they're not measurable at all. But you're just doing it for doing its sake. You're not managing your time effectively. You're not prioritizing. You're not you're not you're doing way more work than is needed to produce less work. All of that is a means for destruction. It's not good for your school life. It's not good for your professional life at all, because at the end of the day it will at some point affect you. And once it starts to affect you, if you don't get on it at a specific time, I mean, you don't need to jump on and say, oh, I'm going to be this perfect person tomorrow, or I'm going to be this perfect person next month. None of us are perfect, but it comes to prioritization. There are certain things within our work lives or professional lives that we just definitely can't do, that we need to get a handle on, because if we continue to let them sway, it's just going to be a slippery slope down the road. So we definitely need to focus on prioritization, and we definitely need to make sure that we are it's simple and it's not simple. You're not going to get up tomorrow and do all of this magic and say, hey, as I said before, you're this perfect person. But taking everything one step at a time will definitely get you in a better position than you are now, if you are someone that, you feel like, hey, you can definitely do better, or you can definitely do or you're definitely not producing the type of work that you want to produce. Oh, and sorry, my apologies. I know I had something else because I was wondering why that said thank you. Let me just run through these real quick. So planning, I won't stay long, probably 2 minutes. In closing, good time management starts with good planning skills. It's very hard to manage your day or week if you're not effective at planning. Developing proper planning skills is the first step toward better time management. So as I started with planning, I have to end with plan, because if you don't plan properly, it won't you won't achieve what you want to achieve. You won't set out the goals, or you won't be at the place where you want to be. Continuing to prioritization. The point of a plan is not to only imagine how things should go, but also decide about the priorities. The idea is to make hard decisions about how you should spend your precious time. We all have the same number of hours. I'm sure we've all heard that. We all have the same number of hours. What we do with those hours is what makes the real difference in time management. The bottom line is that good time management skills in making good decisions about your time. Moving on to setting boundaries. If you want to be good at time management, you have to treat your time as the most precious resource you possess. That means setting very clear boundaries. Think someone is asleep. That means setting very clear boundaries to people who want to delegate tasks to you, or to engage in projects and activities that are not your priority. In this regard, saying no is one of the most important skills in time management. Setting boundaries, knowing exactly what you can achieve within a certain time period, and what you can manage within the scope. Just like you must learn to say no to other people, you must also learn how to set boundaries for yourself. If you don't know how to do that, you could take too much work on your plate and not deliver. Delegating and outsourcing tasks. As I mentioned earlier, the main point of task delegation is that you can focus on the highest value activities and get all the rest off your back. It's a kind of specialization. So with proper delegation, you can also engage people who are bigger experts than you are at some things, meaning they can perform some tasks better and faster. Delegating tasks might sound simple, but it's really not. First, you have to find the right people whom you can trust and who will actually deliver. Then you have to build a relationship with them and properly communicate the definition of work done and acceptance criteria when you delegate, meaning properly communicate what you're expecting at the end, what exactly they are supposed to do, because at the end of the day, based on what is being asked, a person might complete something based off their perception. You two might not be thinking about the same thing, so you have to make your goals or your expectations very clear, especially when you're delegating tasks. Because someone, if they're not clear on something, they'll do the completely opposite of what you would have wanted, them to do. And finally, in closing, building a system and diligently following it. So in building a system, of all the things I mentioned earlier, would become a system of either effectively managing your time or effectively, my apologies, or effectively planning or effective, oh Lord, sorry. All the things I mentioned earlier together would be a system of either effectively managing your time or effectively managing your effectively managing your personal development plan. Apologies. So with all the areas, the negatives and positives that I would have mentioned, all would be in a system. So once you follow the system, in that set smart goals, you do your SWOT analysis, personal analysis first, look on all the things that you want to achieve, look at your weaknesses, threats, you prioritize, you delegate, just hitting on some pointers here. And there are numerous time management techniques that can be employed, a lot, but just focusing on the few. As I said, it's really doing less to achieve more. Focusing on delegating your task well. As leaders, focusing on prioritizing, it really makes a difference in the quality work you provide or produce, and it makes a difference in the type of work you produce, being that you are more reliable, you produce better quality work. So evidently you'd be doing more work, you'd be at the top of mind of persons who matter, and in the organization you would be considered firstly because you stand out, and that is what is important. The total opposite is not so good because it can damage your professional reputation, and damaging that is a slippery slope, making a bad rep for yourself just because of things that you don't want to prioritize. You like to have fun, you don't you put those things before the work that you have to do. Evidently it's going to affect the quality, it's going to affect the productivity, and it's going to affect the business or the organization, so it won't necessarily look so good on you. So my closing words are to basically you won't get there overnight, and it's really about making things easier for yourself. So taking everything one step at a time, taking on everything one step at a time, setting specific goals for yourselves, whether it is within your seminar, personally, family, in your business, organization, etc., and actually working towards those goals. Don't just set some goals and say, okay, I'm going to work toward. Actually put a plan in place, paper, type it up, whatever needs to be done to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable on the short, the medium, and long term to achieve whatever goal or objective that you have. And those are my few words. Thank you very much. If there